Chapter 5, Episode 11. Private Lessons with Emmerich Bauer. Following the addresses by Claude, Dean of the Faculty of Medicine and Chief Court Physician, and Bruno, Dean of the Faculty of Pharmacy and President of the University, Pharma, Dean of the Faculty of General Medicine and Pharmacy, took the podium and attracted the attention of the new students. The height of the podium was inappropriate for the unique circumstances of a child, but Pharma stood a little taller and did not care. Pharma's eyes met Ellen's in the corner of the auditorium, who was watching anxiously to see what she might do, and she turned up the corner of her mouth. Ellen seemed to have learned that Pharma was not upset. Ellen looked at Pharma and said, "Nice to meet you, Ellen. My name is Pharma de Medici's Court Apothecary, and I have been appointed Dean this year. I look forward to making your acquaintance. The Imperial College of Pharmacy of St. Fleuve has undergone a renewal of its educational program and consolidation of its faculties, and is now undergoing a powerful rebirth as a world-class center of medical and pharmaceutical education and research." Pharma noticed that the young man at the head of the school was staring at him on the stage, but he did not look at him and continued his speech. He did not look at him, but continued talking. "Each medicine you are dealing with has the potential to heal the same sick patients all over the world," he said. "Medicines have the power to heal people. It is a chain biochemical reaction that occurs between the medicine and the human body. We must understand that reaction, and from there we must look down and understand what is happening in the living organism. Pharmacists should draw on the power of medicine with solid knowledge and advanced skills in hand, work closely with medical professionals in all faculties, and use it appropriately. I will thoroughly teach you how to do this specifically." As usual, Pharma's admonition was lengthy, so Ellen signaled to Pharma with a hand gesture. Pharma's passion for pharmacology usually leads him to talk too long in these instructions. The students saw Bruno's gesture that they could sit down and listened while seated. Pharma's speech never ended. The students listened too, and the students outside of the College of Comprehensive Medicine and Pharmacy were so moved during Pharma's few speeches, and so amazed by his scholarship, that a number of them, especially those in the College of Pharmacy, wanted to transfer to the College of Comprehensive Medicine and Pharmacy. Of course, some of them were fed up with the length of the talk. "Very valuable talk, thank you, but I'll continue in the lecture." "Professor Pharma." Finally Bruno forced an interruption. Pharma, who had been absorbed in the conversation, scratched his head in remorse. "I beg your pardon. It seems that I was talking too much. Now, I hope you will make the most of your time at the university. I will be giving 5 lectures, including the first-year common curriculum, Introduction to Basic Medicine, Biology of Medicine and Pharmacology, and the second-year specialized courses, and I look forward to lectures and practical training with you all." Pharma's lectures, to be held in the main auditorium, were incorporated into the required courses common to all faculties. In the first and second years, students take a liberal arts course, and in the third and fourth years, they take a specialized course. In the 5th year, practical training is conducted, and after 5 years, students are qualified to take the examination to become a first or second-class pharmacist. Students must be 14 years old to enroll. Tuition was paid by the Empire and was free of charge on the condition that after graduation, the student would work for 5 years as a medical professional for the Empire. All of my lectures in the first year are compulsory, so if you don't take the credits, you will be retained immediately. Please be sure not to miss any of them. The first comprehensive guidance of the new semester was over, and the bells of the central clock tower were ringing with the bright tones of ring-dung, ring-dung. Through the open window, I could hear the murmuring of a stream in the schoolyard and the chirping of birds. In the magnificent dean's office and faculty room assigned to Pharma, he and Ellen were conversing with the faculty secretary. "I was surprised at how well you are accustomed to greeting people in front of that many faculty members and students. I'm used to dealing with students. Ellen is surprisingly uptight, even though she's always so competitive. I'm used to dealing with students. I'm used to dealing with students." In his previous life, he had been giving lectures for many years, so when he was told that he was well versed in the subject, all he could think was, of course I am. Did you teach somewhere? Zoe de Dunois, who had brought the tea set, asked Pharma in surprise. She was a beautiful secretary of a professor who had just been hired for this semester, whom Pharma had tested orally during the interview and found intelligent and attentive. She had long light blue hair tied back with a corsage and a standing collar and bustle-style dress, the look of a refined lady. "I've never been a professor," she said. "I've been an associate professor," she did not add. Zoe nodded her head and wondered what he meant. "He's a little different from other people," she said. "He's a little different from other people." Ellen's words were muddled with such words. As the three of us sipped tea and took a breather, we heard a knock at the door of the professor's office. "I'm Emmerich Bauer, sorry for the unexpected visit. Please come in. Please excuse me." Emmerich Bauer was ushered into the professor's office, sat down on the sofa, and opened his mouth with the following words. "I'm from the Faculty of Medicines and Pharmacology at Medici's. Dean of the Medici's College of Pharmacy and Pharmaceutical Sciences, I would like to ask you to accept my request for withdrawal. I'm here to ask you to accept my request to withdraw from the university." "What, withdrawal, already?" Ellen's glasses shifted as if to say, "What are you talking about?" "It's very sudden," she said. "Couldn't you have withdrawn before you took the exam or enrolled?" Phalm rejected Emmerich's request, albeit softly. "I've been thinking about it over and over until today. I don't have much time. I've already made up my mind. If you insist, I must prepare a statement of reasons to submit to the faculty senate. I don't know if it will be accepted. If it is just a change of mind, it will be rejected." "A reason?" "The definitive reason is that I made a mistake in my choice of career path. I should have carefully assessed who wrote this textbook. I would like to visit my brother and study under him personally. Emmerich has decided that Farmer could not have written the textbook. So he assumed that Palais, whose name was listed as a co-author, was the first author. That is a very open statement." But Pharma was not offended, and calmly asked, "What do you mean by that?" "That means you don't think I can write." "Is that what you mean?" "No, nothing like that." He said it superficially, so as not to offend his older brother Palais, but behind his green eyes I could see a strong affirmation. "Phalma is only 12 years old and does not seem to have mastered the full range of his studies. Unfortunately, my brother doesn't have any apprentices. He is an excellent apothecary, but he only became a first-class apothecary 6 months ago. If that's okay with you, I'll accept." Pharma inked the inkwell, signed his name, and advised, "Wait a minute. You, Pharma, no, you are saying that just based on the professor's appearance." Ellen, who had been silently listening, defended Pharma with dismay. "Ellen, it's okay. It's a career path he's decided on, and as a faculty member, I'm just here to support him. I don't know if it will be accepted, but if you're that demotivated, I'll go to the faculty meeting." Pharma restrains Ellen. "Emmerich is certainly a brilliant man, but if you don't want to learn, it's not something you should force on him. If you don't want to continue, there is no way to go on. Besides, according to the data Zoe showed me, he is already a first-class pharmacist in a foreign country. He would have plenty of work to do once he returned to his home country." "What do you mean, he was about to enter college and didn't have time?" Pharma was a little concerned. "I'm not going to say anything else then. I don't think you should judge people by their looks." Emmerich heard Ellen's words and felt something that Ellen, who was highly respected within the university and among the students as Bruno's best pupil, would defend him to that extent, and turned to Pharma to see what she thought. He turned to Phalma and said, "Well, if you don't mind, I don't mind. May I ask for your guidance in a Jinjutsu match? Why do you want to test my ability in the divine arts?" Pharma reminded him to Chuan the intention of founding the College of Pharmacy and Pharmaceutical Sciences. It is a department that can be studied without the use of the divine arts. "Why are you asking this professor to compete with you in a jutsu match?" I asked him. But Emmerich stubbornly shook his head. A good apothecary is a good divinity. This is common knowledge. If you do not accept, I have no choice. You know what you are saying. The first thing to do is to make sure that you have a good understanding of what you're talking about. The fact that he refused to take part in a jinjutsu match meant that he was running away from a serious competition, which is disgraceful for a grown-up nobleman. I could read between the lines that he was trying to humiliate Falma, who was still a minor, by treating her like a child. Besides, according to conventional wisdom, a good apothecary is always a good divination practitioner. If you want to drop out, I won't stop you. Pharma took off his jacket and vest and stood up. Zoe, he said, can you tell the office to rent out the arena for me? Zoe, you mean now? What do you want to use it for? Private lessons, I guess. Yes, sir. Would you like to apply for the deployment of a jinjutsu team for generating bulkheads and for a doctor to be on standby for first aid? Zoe asked with concern, but Pharma was puzzled. What's a bulkhead generating arcane force field? I mean exactly what it sounds like. It is a kind of barrier that prevents the gallery from being attacked. You should definitely prepare for it. Ellen taught Falma. Emmerich's skills are expected to be very good. If he destroys equipment or property on campus, he will be charged to the party who conducted the theurgical battle, so it's better to have protection, she said. Well, then, please make those preparations. Take it easy. You are indeed the youngest professor in the Reich. You have a lot of guts. Emmerich beamed, perhaps because things had turned out the way he wanted them to. There is a saying, you are not stupid enough to be called a teacher. Since you are leaving school, you don't have to say anything that is out of your mind. Farmer cut back on Emmerich's sarcasm by quoting the willow. But there is one thing I want you to take to heart and leave. With that, Pharma turned his back on Emmerich and left the room. It's the jutsu match. The jinjutsu match is about to begin. The breaking news was hotly received and quickly traveled throughout the university. Students and faculty alike, who were on campus and had heard the news, began to gather in the outdoor arena. What's going on? Bruno looked down at the garden from the window of the president's office and frowned. The new students this year seem to have a lot of energy, he said. The vice president is compiling the approval documents signed by Bruno and preparing materials for the various committees. Would you like to watch the match, Chancellor? Unfortunately, I don't have time. I am afraid I don't have time to see the games, he said. Every year, there are always 1 or 2 deaths during the Shinto ritual matches. When it comes to a battle between nobles, it is not a safe match. Even if they did not intend to kill, they would risk their lives. But Bruno had never dreamed that it would be his son's fight. The transparent cylindrical jinjutsu formation that covered the arena stage was woven and activated. Entering the enclosure of blue pillars of light, Falma and Emmerich faced each other. Thank you for your company. Emmerich smiles with a smile. Pharma stretched out her arms in preparation. Both drew their canes, but Emmerich took one long cane and disassembled it into 2 pieces from the center. He seemed to be a double cane user. Pharma does not look particularly perturbed by this. He gripped the staff lightly. He confirms the rules of the Genjutsu combat. Time is unlimited. The opponent must either let go of the staff and show his surrender, or the referee must stop him, or the combat must be disabled. The official in charge of the outdoor arena, wearing a referee's armband, confirms the rules. Without a referee, there were cases of people killing each other, and at Bruno's insistence, he was to be present whenever there was a Shinto ritual match. I understand. Pharma replied clearly and nodded. The rules were the same as those for the practical training in the divination arts that he had experienced with Ellen and Per. Begin. Emmerich broke out into a chant as soon as the referee signaled the start. Arstiken de Barracks. Heilige Tornado. Continuous chanting by 2 wands. Both of them are wind divination techniques. And the language of the chanting was not that of the Empire of St. Florbs but that of the Kingdom of Prosen. Oh, 2 staffs chanting at the same time? That's very rare. You are quite a master. The teachers who were watching the event were impressed. The choking technique is not effective against Pharma. The referee was blown away and thrown out of the ring. Although the tornado was extremely powerful, Pharma dared to pretend to be blown away, kicked the ground and jumped up wide, taking up a position in the air. The staff in Pharma's hand is one of a kind, but it is the work of a staff craftsman in the imperial capital. Even without the Yakushin cane, the staff certificate he carried in his breast pocket created buoyancy. Softly, Pharma's body is impregnated with wind. Long dwell time. Is this the effect of Emmerich's tornado? No, the professor is using the wind in the opposite direction. The gallery realized that Emmerich's technique was not working on Pharma and shouted. Question. Pharma's voice, thrown from above, echoed well throughout the arena. What attribute am I? Pharma asked, looking down at him with her index finger raised in the air. Then, right after that, he asked. The great hammer of water, l'enorme marteau d'eau. Pharma drew a circle with the tip of her staff and swung a high-pressure attack at Emmerich, as if summoning a column of water. Damn it, that's a water attribute, of course. Emmerich saw through the attack and quickly stepped forward to evade. But Pharma read Emmerich's line of movement perfectly and maneuvered the water column as he slowly descended so that he could just barely evade. Emmerich had no choice but to evade as if he were a small animal targeted by a bird of prey. The battlefield was severely damaged and a small crater was opened by Pharma's attack. What was that water pressure? Shattering the stage on which the divine art formation was laid out. Was the great hammer of water such a divine technique? The teachers, who had come to watch, exchanged words with each other. No, it was not. And the sound of Professor Pharma's chanting is subdued. There is no way it could be that powerful. The chanting does not have to be loud, just a murmur is enough to activate the chanting and the divine art will be activated. However, if the chanting is poorly pronounced, the power of the divine art generally decreases. That kind of power was just a whisper of activation chanting is. The gallery was unable to comprehend the out-of-the-ordinary divine arts and began to make a commotion. Emmerich counterattacked with a series of aerial attacks, narrowly avoiding them, realizing that Pharma was only trying to scare him. He was not going to hit you, Professor. I didn't think so. Pharma landed softly on the ground. He landed so lightly that he seemed to have escaped gravity, and Pharma could see that Emmerich was becoming increasingly wary of him. If you are trying to play me moderately without injuring me in a mutually agreed-upon divination match, I am unwilling to do so. Please come with the intention of killing me. Pharma, who had the Japanese sense that a teacher should not fight back when hit by a student, listened to Emmerich's words with surprise. I see. Then I won't hold back. When Pharma looked into his eyes, Emmerich flinched for a moment. Pharma mumbled something and produced a single ice grain on her fingertip. The grain grows, then 2, then 4. A sort of ice? It is a basic water-based technique, and Emmerich knows it. It is the art of slashing at a target with 16 ice knives. However, the formation of Pharma did not end and began to multiply exponentially. There are already countless deadly weapons floating around the Pharma. If they hit us with all of these, we won't be able to escape just because of the sheer volume. Emmerich may have felt this way, but his face completely lost its composure. Pharma slowly pointed her index finger at Emmerich in fear and flicked her toe just lightly. This is not a divine art. Emmerich swallowed a scream as he was hit with a density that would not allow any evasion. The ice knives are shot at Emmerich at the same time at a high rate of speed. He got away. The wind barrier that Emmerich had put up was completely destroyed before it was completed. When he realized his death, all knives were stopped a few millimeters away from Emmerich. If he made the slightest movement, he would die instantly. Captured a glace. Ah! Emmerich, unable to move, was bound so that he was embedded in a huge iceberg. Pharma then aimed her cane at him as if she were making a billiard shot. A tempiden color. Huh? Emmerich's face tightened even more in fear. After all, the opponent, whom he had thought to be a water attribute divine art user, had unleashed a wind attribute divine art. The iceberg evaporated and disappeared just before the attack was released, but it did not give Emmerich time to escape. The blast struck Emmerich and took away his vision. Then Emmerich heard the dreaded words. And for de Brulor. The Pharma continued to stand up and surround the frightened Emmerich entirely with a circle of blazing flames. Emmerich immediately called in a strong wind and managed to blow out the flames and extinguish them. However, he was under further attack. Conviction du Ciel, Heaven's Conviction. This is the highest level of earth-based divination, in which flaming gravel rains down like rain from above. This time, Emmerich was also hit and received a concentrated bombardment. Emmerich tried to blow it away with the wind, unable to bear the intense pain, but he seemed to notice that his own divine power was rapidly diminishing. Emmerich's patron god is the god of medicine. When he deals with Pharma, it resonates and Pharma takes away his divine power. Ha! Divine power is... Why? What's wrong? Emmerich realized that Pharma knew something when Pharma seemed to see through everything he said. You should have gotten yourself in shape. As long as Emmerich's patron god was the god of medicine, there was no way he could beat Pharma. The more Emmerich tried to use the divine arts, the more he needed the blessing of his patron god. Praying to the medicine god is nothing but blessing and empowering Pharma. Pear had a large amount of divine power to begin with and was able to hold up for about an hour against the medicine god's staff. But Emmerich used up all the divine power in his body in no time at all. However, it was clear from the figures of the divine power meter assessed at the time of admission that Emmerich was also probably one of the best divine art users in the school. Now, let me ask you the same question. What are my attributes? Pharma asks the question to give Emmerich a break as he breathes on his shoulder without the strength to shoot his divination technique. Emmerich was too shaken to answer, probably because Pharma had just fired all 4 attributes with a precise invocation chant. Gradually, the spectators began to realize that Pharma's divination was unusual. There was no such thing as a magician who could use all the attributes of the body. Emmerich was trembling finally. He must have felt deflated. The first time I attacked with water, you said, water is the attribute of water. Water. Emmerich's lips trembled, but he could not say anything back. But I was fooled, wasn't I? All the Pharma was matter creation and erasure, disguising the other attribute divination techniques. The fire attribute was the creation of detonating matter and combustible materials. The wind attribute was the creation and elimination of huge icebergs to create a vacuum, lower the atmospheric pressure, and bring in a storm. The earth attribute rained ores through material creation. By adding the activation chants of the existing Shinto rituals, it was made to look like that. But Emmerich, who did not know this, looked at him as if he were looking at a great sage. Professor Pharma, are you by any chance able to use all the attributes of divination? Of course not. Pharma laughed, obscuring the truth. I can use all the attributes of... What is the correct attribute then? You wouldn't understand, would you? That is exactly what I want you to learn and leave. Wherever you leave this university and whatever you do for a living, don't take things lightly in light of the conventional wisdom. Pharma drew a straight dividing line with his cane in front of Emmerich, who was cornered at the edge of the stage. Then the stage suddenly disappeared and Emmerich fell off the stage. Emmerich continued to work off stage. If you want to do a great job and help more people. Emmerich was considered to have lost his will to fight because he was out of place and still off balance and had let go of his cane. HMPH Professor Pharma de Medicis wins. The referee made the decision, and Pharma also put down her cane. I accept your notice of dismissal, and I will refer your dismissal to the faculty senate. Is that clear? Pharma pulled a signed piece of parchment out of her pocket and held it up for Emmerich to see. May I withdraw my application too? Emmerich shook his head and pleaded with Pharma in a hushed voice. I want to learn from you. I was wrong. Professor Pharma, please forgive my rudeness. Pharma hears Emmerich's intention, creates an inflammable substance, and burns the letter of withdrawal with a clean conscience. The private class is over. The rest of the class will be in the classroom. The Jinjutsujin was released and the blue shards of light shattered. Emmerich stood up and bowed his head low until Pharma was completely out of sight of the arena.